11 will be evil. Yes, this sounds pretty crazy. 11 lost her powers at the end of the third season, but are we really going to believe that the show will go on without a nosebleed from Millie Bobby Brown's iconic character? Well, she will probably get her powers back, but she won't be the sweet 11 we all love. During her teenage years, 11's powers have always been lined up with her emotions, and in Season 4 she will be living in a completely new place without the comfort of Hopper and her boyfriend Mike close to her. She already thinks her father figure is dead, and she could be adjusting to going to a new school depending on when the season is set. Well, it is not strange to think that 11 is going to get her powers back. Question is, what if this time around her power is poisoned by her sadness and grief? 11 could become a dark character in Season 4, or even the villain of the season. In a recent clue from Stranger Things' writing team, they also tweeted lyrics from the song Cosmic Love. The song is about coping with losing someone, and the standout lyric stated, "So darkness I became." We have a feeling they were talking about a main character, probably 11 becoming evil. Lab kids, test subjects. From one of the fourth season teasers, it looks like we're going to see more of the kids that were in the Hawkins National Lab with 11. Whether it is in 11's backstory or the present time, it's still unclear, but we are sure that we are going back to the lab. Going back to the lab has always been in the works, and there is so much potential here, especially when you consider all the different directions Stranger Things could go with people who have powers. Maybe 11 will form a super team, and that means we will meet more test subjects. The theory suggests that if all the kids in the lab are connected, then there must have been a way their collective trauma created the Upside Down and the breach between dimensions. Makes sense, right? The Upside Down was the work of Will Byers. After 3 successful seasons, the Upside Down continues to remain a mystery, and a crazy theory suggests that Will Byers could be responsible for the creation of the terrifying realm where only bad things happen. How? Well, Will's artistic nature and his appetite for stories and make-believe could be the reason, and the Upside Down could be a manifestation of his imagination. It could explain why he is the only person known to have survived there for days without any type of protection. The events and creatures are so similar to Dungeons & Dragons because Will is an avid player, and it could have been his main inspiration when he was creating the Upside Down. In Season 1, Will is in the Upside Down almost the entire time. So why wasn't he killed right away like every other person who encountered the Demogorgon? Well, could Will be more integral to saving the day than we initially thought? The emphasis has always been on 11's capabilities, but Season 4 could take the narrative in an entirely new direction. Or maybe Elle created the Upside Down. A fan theory suggested that 11 created the Upside Down, and it's a manifestation of all the trauma and abuse she went through at Hawkins' lab for years. 11's mother, Terry Ives, was part of a government program known as MK Ultra, in which she was subject to many experiments involving psychedelic drugs and sensory deprivation. Terry got pregnant and gave birth to a girl, Jane, aka 11, who was born with psychokinetic abilities as a result of all the experimentation Terry went through. Immediately after her birth, Jane was abducted by Dr. Brenner, making Terry believe she had a miscarriage. It's possible then that the other dimension is a physical manifestation of 11's trauma, and the Demogorgon and all the creatures in it are representations of her abusers. After all, what opened the gate was 11 making contact with the Demogorgon, which was a traumatic experience in its own, triggering the materialization of 11's trauma as a dark, parallel directions. Quick question, where do you think the Upside Down came from? Let us know in the comment section below. The Chernobyl disaster connection. The first season of Stranger Things took place in the winter of 1983, the second season in the fall of 1984, and the third in the summer of 1985. The only season the show has not explored is spring, and one would imagine it would also take place a year later. In the spring of '86, the Chernobyl disaster happened in the USSR. It is the worst nuclear disaster in the history of the world that HBO also explored in the miniseries Chernobyl. However, Stranger Things could explore the disaster in a different angle. The incident could be a cover-up for an Upside-Down related case in the series. There is something eerily nuclear-esque about the world of the Upside Down. There's debris everywhere, and what if Demogorgons are dysmorphic humans set off from the dangerous technology? Stranger Things 4 is already taking us to Russia, so a Chernobyl connection may not be that far-fetched after all. Steve and Nancy back together. For some fans, this may seem less important in the grand scheme of things, but it would be very good news for shippers of the Season 1 couple. By the time Season 4 happens, Jonathan will be over in another town with Joyce and Will and away from Nancy. Since Steve and Nancy broke up, Steve has gone through quite the journey and he's grown as a human. He's not the jerk he once was and has a lot more in common now with Nancy. Jonathan, on the other side, might be looking to put the world of the Upside Down and Hawkins behind him, and Nancy's possible theorizing and investigating might put a strain on their relationship and possibly lead her back to Steve. XMen Crossover? Episode 1 of Stranger Things 4 is called Hellfire Club, and we might have an idea about what it'll be about. While the name might not ring a bell to all, those familiar with Marvel Comics would instantly connect the title to a secret society in connection to the X-Men. In fact, the Hellfire Club consisted of villains like Magneto, Emma Frost, and Sunspot, who were often at odds with the X-Men. The group was first introduced in 1980, making it very possible for Stranger Things to incorporate the topic in the nostalgia-driven sci-fi series. Not only was the Hellfire Club featured in the Gifted TV series, but it was also an aspect in 2019's X-Men Dark Phoenix. Could Stranger Things be hinting at a possible connection to the X-Men? Maybe. Time travel. The marketing of Stranger Things Season 4 began in September of 2019, for which Netflix released a teaser video. In it, the series logo appears along with a big 4 and the screen starts to glitch. It then takes the viewer to the Upside Down, where the logo and the 4 are slowly covered in tendrils, and a clock, located on a tree on the left side of the screen, is heard ticking. The teaser ends with the caption, "We're not in Hawkins anymore," with viewers later learning that Season 4 will take them to the Upside Down, Russia, and possibly other places as well. The clock in the Upside Down made way for a couple of theories on how the upcoming season will deal with time travel, especially because Season 3 had a couple of references to Back to the Future. Teaser set in Hawkins' laboratory also has some hints on time travel. There's a clock ticking over half of the video, and Dr. Brenner, who has not been seen since Season 1, appears in the lab. The writers of Stranger Things also tend to tease fans on Twitter, and in May of 2020, they shared a photo of a board with all the movies they had been taking a look at for inspiration. It was a surprise to many that not all the movies were from the 80s. Among the movies were Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which in its entirety deals with time travel and lots of humor. Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and Terminator Dark Fate, where the character of Grigory was a very obvious reference to Arnold Schwarzenegger's famous time-traveling character in Season 3. And 12 Monkeys, in which a man is sent back in time to find the virus that wiped out all of humanity and help scientists find a cure. Introducing time travel into the mix in Season 4 would fit perfectly in the Stranger Things style. It would feel like a natural step, as it is part of its essence to pay homage to some of the biggest movies from the 80s, which in turn inspired all those on the list that came in the 90s and later. And also, with characters potentially traveling to other decades, inspiration from other years would make sense as well. Hopper lost his memory. Sheriff Hopper sacrificed himself to destroy the key that could open the gateway to the Upside Down for the Russians. Although everyone was duped to believe that he was dead, Hopper is alive, although he might be a prisoner in a Soviet labor camp. Hopper, with dozens of other men, are working on a railroad while Russian officers are circled around them with guns. Many fans believe that the Russians wiped all of Hopper's memory and everything related to the Upside Down through a lobotomy, which explains his clean-shaven head. This may introduce us to a dark Hopper who turns against Eleven, or even joins Eleven if she's actually being controlled by the Mind Flayer. The trailer from Russia with Love also shows Hopper and dozens of other prisoners working on a railroad. Where it leads, we don't know. But one fan suggested that it could be a path to the Upside Down as ordered by the Russians. Given that the railroad scene is the first sneak peek at Season 4, there must be something important about the railroad. Who is going to Russia? We know that Jim Hopper is in Russia, and from the look of things, he needs saving. There are references to some pretty indisputable evidence that seems to point to Joyce and Murray making an excursion to Russia to rescue Hopper. In a BTS article from the set, Joyce's wardrobe tag is visible in a few photographs. And for proof of Murray traveling with Joyce, Brett Gelman did an IG Live and people were able to ID the restaurant. How the Demogorgon will help Hopper. So far, we know that the Russians are keeping a Demogorgon, but they possibly don't know the extent of its destruction. The only person who knows exactly what a Demogorgon can do is Hopper, who's also trapped in Russia. A theory suggests that the Demogorgon will find its way out of the prison or lab in Kamchatka and go on a killing spree. Hopper, knowing very well what a Demogorgon can do, knows that it can't be good to have one running wild and free. The guards would then turn their attention to the monster attacking their people, and this is when Hopper will see an opportunity to escape not just from the monster, but from the Russians. Dr. Owen. One of the bigger surprises in the Stranger Things 3 finale was the arrival of Paul Reiser's Dr. Owen character from Stranger Things 2. He was the director of operations at Hawkins' lab, who spent most of his time investigating the gate to the Upside Down prior to 11 closing it. He also worked closely with Will in Season 2, especially after his possession by the Mind Flayer. Owen was never revealed to be good or bad, simply curious about what was going on beyond the gate. Clearly, his cameo-like arrival here is teasing a more substantial role in Stranger Things 4. So maybe the scene is meant to set up his determination to close the Upside Down once and for all. Since he knows about the experiments, he will be very key in helping Eleven and her crew. Netflix has kept us guessing for quite some time now, and fans can't wait for Season 4's release. Do you have a crazy theory we may have left out? Sound off in the comments section below.